Hi folks! Today's category is Best Adapted Screenplay, the lineup for which is comprised entirely of Best Picture nominees, so unfortunately we can't really use that to give us any clues as to who might win, but fortunately we don't need to, because the winner in this category is pretty obvious. The first of the 5 nominees is 127 Hours, which was co-written by the director Danny Boyle and by Simon Beaufoy, who wrote Slumdog Millionaire. I wasn't sure about whether this would be nominated here because the film strikes me as more of a director's showcase than a writer's. There really isn't much of a plot to go by, and there are long stretches of the film with little to no dialogue. But of course there are many inherent challenges in writing a story of this kind for the screen, and upon reading the script, one can't help but be impressed by the creativity and the unique approach from which Boyle and Beaufoy chose to tackle their subject. It was good of the writers' branch to recognize it, but Academy members are more likely to vote for a script with many characters and lots of dialogue. To that end, I give you the aforementioned obvious winner of this year's Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay, The Social Network by Aaron Sorkin, possibly one of the best writers working in show business. But of course, it would be wrong to simply praise a screenplay for having witty, razor-sharp dialogue, because it's got so much more going for it than that. It's a complex character study with ideas and themes that, by examining an individual, manages to comment on our larger society. It's also just a really interesting, smartly structured, well-told story that he managed to fashion out of a story that not a lot of people would have found interesting before seeing the movie. Having already won just about every prize handed out for screenwriting this year, I would be shocked and appalled if he didn't win this on Oscar night. So if you can't tell, The Social Network is far and away my favorite of the field, but if I had to choose a second favorite, it would probably be Toy Story 3. The story was developed by Pixar veterans John Lasseter, Andrew Stanton, and Lee Unkrich. The actual screenplay was written by Michael Arndt, who won an Oscar a few years back for Little Miss Sunshine. What they all came up with on Toy Story 3 really is special stuff. The script is witty, sincere, and tightly told. It's similar in tone and style to the previous 2 Toy Story movies, but it continues to push the themes explored by those films into more mature territory. I sometimes catch myself wondering, if it weren't for The Social Network, whether or not Toy Story 3 might have won this category. But then I remind myself that Pixar makes animated films, and the animation bias in the Academy is just too strong to allow such a thing to happen. They would probably instead go for the Coen brothers' True Grit, which is our 4th nominee. I liked this movie a lot, and I liked the way they treated their adaptation. It may not have had the same idiosyncratic stylistic flourish we usually expect from the Coens, but that's probably just as well. They knew what they needed to do in order to tell this story properly, and they nailed it. I particularly love the antiquated style of dialogue, which does just as much to communicate time and place as do the sets and costumes. It's a richly deserved nomination, but the Coens have been amply rewarded in the past, quite recently in fact, and this is definitely Aaron Sorkin's year. No one, not even the prolific Coens, is taking that Oscar from him. Our final nominee is Winter's Bone, by Deborah Granick and Ann Rossellini. It's a gritty mystery drama set in the Ozark Mountains of Missouri. It's a decent film, but I didn't find the screenplay to be particularly exceptional, and at times in the first half it even felt repetitious and slow. But I don't begrudge Granick and Rossellini their nomination at all. It's not easy for tiny independent films to enjoy the kind of awards attention this one has, so it always pleases me to see low-key movies get fair consideration. Still, I might have preferred to see the screenplays of Rabbit Hole or The Ghostwriter recognized here instead, even though they too would have just as little chance of upsetting The Social Network as Winter's Bone has. Stop by tomorrow when I'll be running down the nominees for Best Art Direction.